Got a small group. Happy Friday. Welcome to Systems with Selina. I actually kind of like it when it's a small group. It means we can dig in for anything that we need to dig in. And sometimes people join late, so we'll just see who pops on or who doesn't, and it can just be us chickens. All right. Happy Cinco de Mayo. I know, I was like, ooh, tacos sound good. Maybe I'll have tacos and a margarita later. All righty. I will leave it open to discussion if anybody has anything in particular they would like to discuss today. I've had so many different things pop up for me this week with different systems, processes, things that people have been asking about, creating efficiencies in their business. It's just been a lot this week. If anybody has anything particular, hang on, I'm letting somebody else in now, that they would like to bring up, I am open to all agenda items. Anything particular? Don't everybody jump in at once?
Well, I have a question for you, Selina. In the arena of DSHs.
Yep.
So I'm working with 2 DSHs, and I think I've come up with the solution, because trying to get 61 in 1 is hard enough, and trying to get 61 in 2 is insane. So I thought I would do a DSH per day, and
Okay.
then the agent attraction track it more weekly.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Are you just setting a different point goal? Is that what you're thinking? A different point goal on the weekly one?
Well, that I'm not, that's why I'm bouncing it off of you. My thought process was, because it's a focus, agent attraction is a focus every 4th day. And
Okay.
so once a week, except for the occasional week where it'll be twice a week. And so, yeah, maybe setting a weekly goal instead of a daily goal, and then, having that total on Friday. So I have something that's consistent, because the point is to track, right?
Mhm.
So that I can see where it is, 6 months from now, keeping the same points, instead of, some days there's 0 agent attraction because it's so real estate heavy.
Gotcha. I mean, can I ask you something? Do you feel like doing
Yes.
it only once a week is going to move it forward enough for you? 1 day a week?
Well, and that's why what I was thinking was to have it track not so much 1 day a week, but as I'm doing agent attraction activities, then keep it on here, but total for a week, because
Okay.
yeah, so you're doing it all week long and tracking it on that paper. So instead of being a daily success habit, it's a weekly success habit.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I think that's totally fine. Like, I mean, it was hard for me to hit 61 points every day too, whenever I was doing it. So, I mean, I just set my points at 30 points a day, whenever I was doing it, just because I was running a big team at the same time. And I was like, I cannot possibly do 61 points of recruiting, daily. So my goal instead was just 30 points a day. But I would say choose a number that feels doable. I want you to understand that the point is not necessarily 61 points. Obviously, the point is to just consistent activities that equal results. So when Verl was coaching me to it, he said, just choose the number that feels like you're going to do activities every single day. It's different. Like if you have a recruiting daily success habit and you are a recruiter and that is what you do full time, then yes, 61 points should be your number, because that's literally all you do. If you are a full-time agent and that is all you do, then 61 points should be your number. If you are a recruiter and a team leader or an agent and you do I do like 6 things, then no, I can't possibly do 61 points of everything. Like it's physically impossible. So you just have to choose a number that feels comfortable to you.
Right.
Right. So if it's 20, points a day, then choose 20 points a day and be like, okay, then I'm going to be happy with 100 points a week for recruiting, or I'm going to be happy with 100 points a week for lead generation, whatever that is, and decide what that number is per week and feel comfortable with that. Don't beat yourself up about it though, because that's what I would do. I would be like, oh, I wish I could get to 61 points a day one day. Well, I was like, I don't recruit full time, and nor can I ever recruit full time. I'm also running a team of 16 full time. Like, and I'm also doing coaching, practically full time. Be good with whatever number you set, because you're doing more than one thing, and be like, I'm good with this number. It's reasonable. And then as you're tracking it, you'll see the results because they're now being tracked. So decide what your weekly number is and be 1000% okay with it. And say, that's my number, daily and week. The reason that I'm saying don't necessarily set a weekly number is because this is why you give yourself permission to keep putting off the days. You're like, oh, I didn't do it today. Don't worry, I've got tomorrow. Oh, now it's Friday, and now all of a sudden it's completely Friday, and now you have to get all the points on Friday. We give ourselves permission to get all the way to Friday, and then you freak out because now it's Friday and I have to do all the points on Friday. So when you give it to yourself weekly, you've given yourself all the permission to wait. So instead, decide if it's 10 points on Monday, 10 points on Tuesday, 10 points on Wednesday, 10 points on Thursday, 10 points on Friday. Decide whatever the daily point is, and then do it that way.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Breaking it down a little further. I got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Selina, I'm a little new here. So what do you mean by points?
Oh, yep. Let me bring up the daily success habit tracker really quick. Do you want to look at it for recruiting or lead generation, Christy? Which one either one?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep. Let's look them up. Hang on one second. Hang on one second. Pulling up all the things. Yeah, she's got hers there. Hang on one second. Sorry, I'm moving slow today. It's because I have 4,000 tabs open. It's like my computer's like, could you close some of the things you have going on? Here we go. I usually have like 9 of these.
I wish I had that luxury. I'm lucky I get to be online at all.
I know your Wi-Fi has been just so crazy lately. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Share screen. Let's come over here. Okay, so Christy, inside of our systems, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger here. We have this thing called daily success habit trackers. This one particularly is for lead generation. Can you see that okay? Okay, great. This one's for lead generation. Now, Workman is where Rick and I both are master coaches. And this has been around forever. It's not just from Workman. This has been around for a really, really long time. But the idea is, and it's pretty hard to argue this, that if you generate 61 points a day from utilizing this tracker, it's nearly impossible not to close 2 to 3 transactions a month by doing this. And this is basically a point system, right? If you get 1 point per call, 1 point per email. These are new calls, by the way. It's not existing clients. This is you trying to generate new business. Handwritten note showing 2 homes to 1 client, either a buyer or listing appointment, getting a new buyer or listing agreement signed, offers written, etc. 61 points is the goal, like every day, getting this to equal 61 points. And these are like your dials. Like this is actually a PDF that you could click on it and it will add it for you if you wanted to do it that way, and just tracking all of these things, right? Nearly impossible to not close 2 to 3 transactions a month if you are aiming for 61 points a day from this tracker. So what we were talking about was like setting that goal. Now, I get some people who don't have it. They're new in real estate. 61 points is really hard to do starting out if you don't have a big database full of people to call, things like that. So I tell people, I'm like, don't start at 61 points, right? Start at 20 points. Start at 10 points. It doesn't matter where you start, just that you're consistently working on doing the activities. And then over time, we build up to it. The goal is activities equal to results. right? So, but if you get up to the 61 points and like, they'll start like, where do I get that many people in my database? So fine, we'll call expireds, we'll circle prospect, we'll door knock. Cause in that case, I would change calls to doors, right? Okay, I called door, I knocked 61 doors today or whatever it is, right? And we just keep doing the activities, and what happens, we start signing buyer and listing appointments, we start signing agreements, and all of a sudden we've got closings. We start seeing the numbers go up and up and up and up and up, right? That's kind of generally what we're seeing. Then when we start switching that to agent attraction, where's my recruiting one? Hang on, let's go up here. Recruiting DSH. Where are you? Why is the search feature just like not working today? There it is. This one looks just a little bit different. Same sort of concept though, right? Calls, emails, phone conversation, actually having a phone conversation with a recruit for agent attraction and EXP, face-to-face meeting, presentation, they join. We got an agent referral, right? You start doing the same concept, right? Again, it can be hard to be both a producing agent and recruiting full time and trying to get 61 points on both sides. That could be really hard to do both, right? So the key is not like overwhelming yourself with saying, I'm going to try to get 61 points in both. It's like, start small. All right. My goal is then to get 10 points a day or 20 points a day until you start seeing results from it. And then as that you start to kind of balance things or get better at it, because as we start doing more activities, we actually start improving at that thing, right? Sometimes like I'm helping to coach some people in agent attraction, and they're not so great at maybe making the calls for agent attraction, but the more calls they make, the better they get at it. And the more conversations they have with people, the better they get at it. Right. So as we start to see their numbers improve. So the key is to take these as you're getting better and better, throw it into a Google spreadsheet each day. And you're like, oh, on average, when I make 22 calls, I set an appointment, right? You start seeing your numbers. When I set an appointment, I had this many appointments equals this many people. So that's why these numbers and these types of things start to really tell you something. Right. And when I coach people in lead generation, those numbers tell me more and more. Like when I start seeing, I'm like, wow, you made 78 calls and you didn't convert any leads. I need to know what they're saying on the phone. I'm like, something's happening on the phone. If they went on 15 listing appointments and they didn't take any listings, I need to know what's happening on their listing appointment. Like something's gone awry, right? Like everything tells us a story, but over time, you really start to know your conversion numbers. You're like, oh, I take 90% of my listing appointments turn into listing agreements. I rock at listing appointments. And so we start to just get more and more information from it. It makes us better and better and better at what we do. But when you're doing two things, you have to be more realistic. Saying I'm going to get 61 points is really, really hard. And as I mentioned, I used to run a large team in New York. Me setting 61 points for myself on both things was like setting myself up for failure every day. There's just no way. I had to set a more realistic goal on time spent on lead generation, time spent on recruiting generation, all of those things, and I was coaching at the same time. So it was like, I would go home every day feeling like a complete and total failure, trying to hit 61 points across all the things, when in reality, I just needed to set a more realistic goal for myself of like, okay, I'm going to be pretty happy if I get to 20 points today. And I set a reasonable number of conversations to a reasonable number of actual recruiting appointments per week versus saying I need to hit 61 points.
Where can I get a copy of those sheets?
Here, I'm going to put a link in for both. One
Thank
second.
you.
Let me get this one and this
They're
one.
also in the resources in Empire Pros.
Yeah, I'm going to put them both in there real quick, just so I can give you the link in the resource library. Did that help you, Sherry? Like, just be reasonable with yourself but don't set a weekly goal. Weekly goal gives you permission to wait.
Well, and I just looked at it and was like, okay, so basically to get to 61, just for a number, that it basically is 12 contacts a day plus one. So it's like, okay, so if I take it down and I go, I have to do 12.
Hang on, I'm letting Debbie in 1 second. Let me get the other daily success habit in there. So I can put that in. I think I've got it in there, but I just want to make sure. Why is the search feature so bad today? Yeah, so I mean, it's
Debbie and I were actually talking about this. So if you could recap real quick what you just went through, it'd probably help.
Debbie. Hey, we were just going, oh, you're muted. You're muted if you're talking.
I have to give a little bit of a acknowledgement that I really appreciate Sherry because she's been holding me accountable. And yesterday I made some phone calls because what I do is I will avoid phone calls at all costs, and I'll do mailers. I'll do anything else but make phone calls. And so I've been doing mailers for the last couple of days, and she's like, good job. And I'm like, no, because I'm supposed to be making the calls. So yesterday I sat here and I was like, you know what, let me just make a few calls real quick. And I made 6 calls. Out of the 6 calls, I talked to 2 people, which I thought was really good odds, right?
Good.
Their leads I got actually through a company that Rick told me about. Anyway, I met these people on the phone about a year or so ago. So they've been in my database for about a year or so. And one of the guys said, can you call back tomorrow around this time? That's why I popped on late. Can you call back tomorrow around this time? Because I really want my wife to hear this. And we're really starting to look now. So even though it was a year ago that I met these people, a lot of people were, let's remember, a year or 2 ago, people were on the fence about whether or not they wanted to buy or sell because the market was so like, what the heck is going on? And buyers weren't sure. Rates were really good then, and now they're kicking themselves like, oh crap, we should have bought, you know, or maybe just the timing wasn't right. So I have to thank Sherry for keeping me on my toes, and every day, either at the end of the day or the first thing the next morning, we send each other a picture of our daily success habits tracker and what we've done. And actually, writing out what we do throughout the day, I looked back at last week's calendar and I was like, everything in orange is personal. And I was like, wow, I am in a sea of orange.
Oh,
I did have a few doctor's appointments, so that was part of it, but like it was all orange because I try to fill my day from like 9 to 5 and treat it like a job, right? This week I have a little more green, which is money-making activities, a little more blue, which are trainings or any kind of learning that I'm doing. And so looking at the week, my Google Calendar for the week and seeing like what color is dominating is a great visual too on how I spend my time. And I make sure that I update my calendar consistently. So I wanted to say that out of those 6 phone calls, I actually got a call to call this guy back.
love that story.
Okay, so you were going over something before I popped in, so go.
First of all, I love that. So that's amazing. Yep. So Sherry was talking about, we were going over daily success habits and setting sort of a weekly goal instead of a daily goal for her recruiting daily success habits. And we kind of talked about that just because 61 points was kind of hard to get daily, you know, for recruiting. And I said, absolutely, perfectly okay to have not 61 points daily because it's kind of hard. You know, she can't necessarily get 61 points every day. And she had set aside 1 day a week, kind of, you know, recruiting wise, and certainly totally possible. And I said, look, it's when we're doing lead generation, we're an agent, plus we're doing agent attraction and other things, right? And I had this come into my life, especially in New York, and now I'm doing it again, where we do multiple things, right? I was running a team, I was recruiting for the team, I was coaching, you know, things that I'm doing now. It's hard to like say, I'm going to do 61 points for all the things. It's kind of impossible. Like it's unrealistic to say 61 points for all the things. And Verl was my coach at the time, Verl Workman. And he was like, well, stop doing 61 points. Like you just have to set a number that's more realistic, because I was going home every day feeling unsuccessful. And he said, choose a number that is more realistic. And so like it was 20 points, right? Or 30 points as I got better. And instead it was like, okay, I'm going to feel good about it, getting 20 points a day. And Sherry said, okay, well, can I set a weekly goal? And I was like, what? We don't set a weekly goal per se, because when we say that we're just going to get that number for the week, we give ourselves permission to wait till the end of the week to get the number. It's like, oh, I didn't do it Monday. I'm going to give it to Tuesday, and then Wednesday happens, and all of a sudden it's Friday. Okay. So we do still have to set a daily goal. Like even if it's 10, okay, I'm going to get 10 points on Monday, 10 points on Tuesday, 10 points on Wednesday, or whatever it is. Still with the goal of however many points I'm going to have at the end of the week. But when we give it just like, oh, I'm going to get 50 points or 61 points for the week, we give ourselves permission to wait all the way till Friday to hit the number. It's
Yeah,
just,
I'll do that.
it's literally what we do. Like all of us do.
Well, like if you give yourself like with like my license renewal, I'm going through my license renewal right now, and I have until I think the 13th. Like I am like, this is too close to the deadline for me. And I've been trying to do a little bit of that, you know, as I go. I've got 3 more sections I've got to do. And I'm like, okay, I'm not making any phone calls. Today I am finishing my license renewal because actually I'm giving myself till tomorrow, because I have one really big section, which is 6 credits. The other 2 are only 3. And the one that's 6 credits is one that I've been avoiding. Like I'm making it the last one because it's just going to fry my brain. It's like natural hazards or something crazy. It's something crazy, like nobody wants to do it, like radon and all that kind of stuff. So I might do that one tomorrow when I've had enough coffee and I've had enough to eat and maybe a bowl of ice cream. I don't know, whatever's going to make me feel motivated to do it.
Yeah. So just my suggestion is, guys, is like, one, get better at the things before you raise it to a number that's not possible, right? So we all improve as we kind of start with a smaller number, and then we start feeling like we had a win, right? So even if you started out as 5, you're like, psh, I killed it for 4 weeks of doing 5 a day, you know, and then it feels like a win. It's like me where I'm like, whoop, whoop, I did 10 lunges, you know, and I'm like, my husband's like, did you break a sweat? I was like, shut up. I did 10 lunges. Okay. You know, he comes out of like the workout room and he's like dripping in sweat, and he was in there for like an hour and a half. And I was like, I did 5 squats.
I 5x'd what I did yesterday.
Yeah, that's me. I'm like,
Perspective.
I know. I was like, I killed it. You know, and he's over here like, I was in there for an hour and a half on the Peloton. I was like, shut up. Shut up. I did nothing yesterday.
Yeah, I don't choose to torture myself, okay?
Yeah. You know? So, but you give yourself the win, right? It's more than you did yesterday. It's more than you did last week. But when you consistently do it for a week, it's like 5, 5, 5, 5. And then you do it again the next week, 5, 5, 5, 5. And then the next week, you're like 10, 10, 10, 10. It feels like a win. You get better at it. It starts to become like a normal part of your routine. You're also getting better at doing the thing, right? And then you start to feel like, okay, I'm getting better at the conversation. I'm getting better at doing the thing. I'm getting better at tracking it. I'm getting better at putting it as a part of my day. Everything starts to get just a little bit better at doing it. It becomes part of you doing the thing. Like I don't know, for anybody who's on the Free Friday coaching call, the thing is apparently my new thing. I'm going to trademark it. Like,
Well, have you read the book, The One Thing?
yes, it's in the hallway. Yes. So it's more about the consistency than it is about the number. Okay. So people get so hung up on the 61 points, and when they don't hit the points, they get really, really disappointed. And I'm like, if we just started with 10, like, I'm never going to forget this story. There is this big client that Workman coaches. They're in the Malibu area, and their average price point is like 7 million. And Verl coaches them
Personally.
And the team didn't want to do daily success habits because they didn't want to be micromanaged. And I'm talking like this because this is how they talk. And they didn't want to do daily success habits. And so they would not do 61 points because they just didn't see the value. And Verl kept pushing and pushing, and they had to come to an agreement on how many points a day felt comfortable for them. Now they had a big database, guys. Anybody want to guess how many points a day felt comfortable for them?
5.
3.
Wow.
I didn't even go to 5.
3.
And I'm the biggest avoider of all.
3 points a day is what they agreed to as a team.
Did they break a sweat?
It felt very uncomfortable for them. 3.
How were they a big team with such unmotivated people?
I was like,
Yeah,
3?
that was 3 for the whole team. How many were on the team?
Wait, hang on, because I've met them. 8? I mean, it's a good sized team there, like, because people like to do their own thing because,
3 each?
3
per
each.
member, Or
3.
3 for everybody?
3 each. They would agree to call 3 people each a day. Or, I'm sorry, it's not call 3 people, only have 3 points. So some of that involved, like, if they had a closing. Remember, closings count for 10, so then they'd be like, oh, well, that counts for my weekly number. So then I don't have to call anybody for like a couple of days.
That's 3 days worth.
Yeah. And I was like,
I know, because that's my logic.
and I'm like, well then 3. If it was at the price point, I'd be like, psh, give me the database.
Gosh, with that price point, I only need to sell 1 a year.
I know. And I was like, first of all, Verl was my coach for 3 years. I was like, I'm sorry, you accepted 3? Like, I didn't realize that was an option with you as a coach. Like, why was this not offered to me? Like, and I was, what did I miss? Like, I felt like if I had said less than 20 on my recruiting, I would have been like scolded.
Because you don't offer baby food to a gorilla.
I was like, but he's like, Selina, I had to have them start somewhere. I had to have them agree and start somewhere. Now, they have come leaps and bounds since then. Leaps and bounds. But they had to see that something was possible, start somewhere, do something was possible, right? And I was like, dear Lord, 3. Wow. I'm sorry they had to work so hard. But they started somewhere. So start with something, consistently do it till it feels a little more comfortable, then build up from there. When you start to see the results from it, it encourages you to do it more, right? You start to see something from it and you're like, okay, wait a second, wait a minute. And then now there are people who are like, I've got a team that I coach just north of Atlanta. They door knock like crazy. And as soon as the agents on the team, like, because they've got 2 newbies, brand new licensed agents, right? And they were like, I'm not real comfortable with the idea of knocking on people's doors. But as soon as they started tracking their numbers, as soon as they started seeing how many doors they knocked, and they started tracking exactly how many conversations that was and how many actual appointments they started gaining from it, they were like, how many more doors can I knock? They started building on additional neighborhoods because they could see exactly what that looked like for them, right? So the numbers become important. Some people don't, like, I am very analytical in nature. Numbers tell me stories, right? So that's what that looks like. Christy, that link that's in the chat is the link. Okay, I want to make sure you saw it. That'll take you to both trackers and let you download it.
Thank you.
So that's why, I mean, people like poo-poo systems and processes and things like that. And I'm like, they tell you something, right? And over time, like there are people who take these daily success habit trackers, and I'm working on it because it came up on one of our other systems calls. And they create an entire agenda around it, right? The left side of the agenda book is your actual calendar for the day, and the right side is your daily success habit tracker. And it's like, okay, if you open it up every day and that becomes your, like, this is my schedule for today, and this is the side, it's my daily success habit tracker, then you know you never miss a day of tracking what you did, right? Debbie, I love the fact that you're tracking exactly where your day is going. I've been doing it quite a bit because I decided to hire a new virtual assistant, and I needed to show Rick and Casey where my day was going. And I was like, doing all the $12 activities every day. And so I was like, doing all the wrong things. And when you start really looking at, you know, what you're spending your time doing, and I love that you're color coding it too, you start seeing like, am I doing the right things every day? We tend to get pulled in different directions, but it also is good. Like you're like, am I spending some time on agent attraction? Am I spending time on lead generation? You know, am I like, this is a common problem for people who work at home. I was just coaching a young lady who is getting ready to start working from home, moving out of a corporate brokerage, moving into a cloud-based situation. And she was like, I just don't know how I'm going to do it. I feel like I'm going to get pulled into doing my laundry, doing this, doing that. And I said, well, that's all about how you set it up, right? And she said, well, you've worked from home for years. And I said, yes, years and years. Like even when I was working corporate for a period of time, I traveled 4 days a week to different states. I covered 7 states back then. But I was typically home on Mondays. And she's like, well, how did you do it working from home? And I said, I went to work every day, just like I do now. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, my husband and I both work from home. We don't see each other for 8 hours. He's across the hall, but we don't see each other. I mean, maybe we might go up and get something to drink at the same time, but I literally come down to work and I'm in this space and I don't do laundry during the day. I might walk my Great Dane just because she's barking and annoying. But like, I don't leave. This is my office.
Do you know of the Pomodoro technique?
Yes, I love the Pomodoro technique.
Yeah. So sometimes I'll have to do that if I've got a bunch of smaller things, but like my license renewal, I sat for like 3.5 hours and just did my studies on that and the tests. And then for another 3 hours later that day, I did updates in my database, which got me to doing like, I think close to 100.
That's awesome.
100 mailers this week on trying to get people to, there were people I only had their address for. I don't have a phone number or an email. And I was sending them a flyer to get them to get on my HomeBot page. So the QR code is to sign up on my HomeBot page. And so I sent that out to probably close to 100 people this week. And then Monday, I'm going to start working on Mother's Day cards for my past clients.
Yeah. So if you guys aren't setting up your space to make sure that you're the most efficient, I would get working on that.
Yeah, my calendar. So projects like license renewal, updating my database, those kind of bigger projects I do in a bright purple. Agent attraction I do in a lavender. I don't know why I picked purplish color for that, but personal stuff is orange, whether it be doctor's appointments, Pilates, hanging out with a friend, whatever. Trainings are blue because that's the default color. And then anything that's money producing, like my TC work that I do, if I'm working with a mentor, when I was doing the mailers. So anything that I do that's money producing, I put in green. If I'm at an event, I do yellow.
So I have to share this because one of my coaching clients, so I do the color coding too, and green always equals money, right? Green always equals money. And one of the buyer's agents on the team that I coach shared something with me that I loved. And she took my color coding to the next level. Okay, so you're going to love this. Her green has different shades. Lead generation is light green. Okay, lead generation for money on her calendar is light green because that's starting the money making process. Showings or listing appointments is the next level of dark green. Okay. Okay. Like it goes up in levels of
There's
darkness,
levels to it. Yeah.
and closings are the darkest green. So it's like she does it like boom, 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 boom equals to money in my wallet, in my bank account. And I was like, "Ooh, I love where this is going." Like in her mind, the money making activity, like from the start all the way to the actual money being in her account, is the level of darkness of green. Like, because in her, it's instilling in her the idea that this moment, this lead generation of creating a listing appointment, a buyer appointment, like making the calls, is the very beginning. This activity is going to equal to the dark green. And I was like, I freaking love this, because in her, she's like, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Showings are the next level of green, or listing appointment, right? It's like boom, 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 show up, turn on my mojo, right? This is
I'm
gonna
not quite there yet, but you're inspiring me, because I need to step up my game. Like prospecting is something that I need to do more, and I want to see the difference between what I'm, you know what I mean?
Yep. So think about it, the same thing with agent attraction, like different levels of that color, whatever your agent attraction color is. It's like, oop, here's my lead generation for agent attraction. I'm making my calls. Oop, here it is where I actually have an appointment on the phone with them, right? Or I'm meeting them belly to belly. Here it is where I'm onboarding them, and here it is where they're on. Like change the level of color inside of your calendar, the different shades. And like, that's you feeling the energy go from the beginning to boom, I got them. The money's in. Boom, boom, shakalaka. Like I was like, I love this. I'm taking this and I'm instilling it into my calendar today. So I just thought, wow, what an interesting way to look at it and say my energy is increasing in relationship to where this is going into the money and to my life, right? Like the power of the color is increasing in relationship to how this is showing up in my life. And I was like, oh, I love that. I love everything about this. And by the way, this is like the newest agent on the team. She's super quiet. She's a pastor's wife. She always feels like she doesn't want to ask for things in her life. Like she just feels like she's just very, very quiet. And she often feels like she's not deserving of things. So I've struggled with her a little bit about the, accepting wins in her life. And I was like, girl, this is like, loving this, loving everything about what you've just said. So something to just kind of like, it's a system that she's created to bring her energy into what she's doing. And I thought, that's amazing. That's really amazing. A different way for her to just create energy around what she's doing. And when she looks at her calendar, she's like, my goal is to make that dark green. That is the idea behind that. Like, what can I do today that changes this from light green to a dark green, which means it's a closing and money in my account. Love it. Yeah, so those systems and those thought processes, like everything about that, and the color coding and kind of tracking where your time, where your energy is going. Like people laugh when they look at, like Rick the other day was like, hey, Selina, when do you have some time to talk to me today? And I sent him a screenshot on my calendar. I won't tell you what he responded because it involved a curse word. But he was like, dear God. And I was like, yeah, it's a little full. But I do that and I schedule out my week and the things that are happening in there because one, it gives me peace. But two, I try to be so intentional with my work days and making sure that, yes, of course I have personal stuff come up too, right? Like I'm picking up my son or I'm doing things like that and things that have to happen, but be aware of where your time is going.
Yeah, I just looked at last week's calendar and I would say 75% of it was in orange, which is personal.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm a slacker.
I'm not a slacker.
Yeah, clearly I was. But this week it's more like, okay, about 30% blue for training, 30% green for money making activities, and then license renewal and database update is like probably another 25%. So I did more in my business than I've done before. Monday I kind of but and yesterday afternoon I kind of but I think I did too much on Wednesday and I got burnt out on Thursday. The older I get, the less I'm able to sit at my desk because I have back problems too.
Get a
So when
stand
my-
up desk.
Yeah, when my back starts flaring up, that's when I go and I'll change out my laundry. And I make sure that all I'm doing is putting one load in and I'm taking one load out. And then the next, after 25 minutes, the next one, okay, I'll fold that load that's on my bed and then go back to work. And then I go back after 25 minutes. Okay, now I'm going to put all that stuff away because I have to get up and walk around. Otherwise, my back will just be killing me.
I got mine at Home Depot. It's a Husky stand-up desk. It is not automatic. That's why I have, you're gonna laugh. This guy. Because I have health issues and mine is not automatic and I cannot do the hand crank on my own with this right arm. So that's why I have this guy. But for, I think I paid $239 for this guy and it's a Husky and it is like 60 something inches wide and it's got two fabulous drawers. I could literally stand on this thing. So could my husband. Totally worth it. And just so you know, Debbie, over there in the corner, it's not over here right now, is my movable treadmill. It fits underneath my desk.
Well, I inherited some furniture when my father passed away. And so I have this big, it takes up the whole wall full of like bookshelf and cabinets and all of that. And then a desk piece that comes out. So
Gotcha.
although I could elevate my my monitor, because I have a Mac, I could elevate my monitor a lot higher and then get a little deal for on top and stand up. But
Because I often sit here for anywhere between 10 and 12 hours a day. So I have to do
I need
something.
the circulation in my legs too.
Yeah.
Getting old sucks.
I had to do it because I spend a lot of time in front of this thing and it just makes me more efficient if I'm up and down. And sometimes I walk, like I don't tend to do it whenever I'm actually sitting here typing. If I'm coaching, I walk while I coach. And it helps me move because otherwise I'm very sedentary. So different things that work for different people. Otherwise there's a lot of time on my bum. A lot of time on my bum. So I love that you guys are tracking where your time is going. I think it's really, really important. Whenever you look at that, you start to kind of realize those things and you're like, what could I do differently? Right. And that's what's really important on that daily success habit tracker. For me, it was really important for me to see that I was spending too much time doing things that were not a good use of my time and that I needed to find more leverage in my life. A lot of people do typically see that whenever they're doing it, or that they're getting distracted on things that are not important. Right? We get pulled into different things and we're like, where did my time go this week? And if you decide that you're working on both agent attraction and lead generation, you start to look at that calendar and say, did I do what I said I wanted to do? Did I do agent attraction, lead generation in my real estate business? Those kinds of things start to show up in there, right? 9 times out of 10. Go ahead, Christy. You say you want to.
Yeah, can I actually 2 questions. First of all, this is awesome. Even the color coding, I love that because it's like definitely you get to see what you're doing in your calendar day. So I think that's great. Thank you for those tips. I don't know if you ladies have already talked about this, but number 1, what CRM do you guys use? I don't know if you're all EXP agents, but do you stick to KV Core or do you use a different one? Number 1, and then number 2, what dialer do you guys recommend? Or do you even use a dialer, or do you go to your title rep and ask your title rep for like certain types of clients?
Great question. Rick's team, we are using KV Core. Debbie, Sherry?
I use KV Core and yeah. Are you asking about like where do we get like our leads and our database from? Did you ask that?
Yeah,
too?
like aside from, well, your database is your sphere, right? So aside from that, how do you acquire new clients? So I know we've talked about like reaching out to title reps before and saying like, who do you have as far as divorces or, something like that.
So I've reached out to my title rep about seniors are my niche. So I tend to get a lot of senior clients and I have a real heart for them. And so I've gotten from title a list of people in a certain zip code or in a certain area. If they're in a 2-story home, if they're over 55 years old, if they've lived in the house for more than 10 years, and if they have like more than 40% equity or whatever, because you want them to have enough money to move and
Right.
or downsize, or if they have to go to an assisted living facility type situation, they should have money that they're going to get. And that's more of a motivation to do it, is to get some of that money to turn it into cash, the equity to turn it into cash. So I've gotten lists from title for that. But I usually farm around where my listings have been, and I try to, there's one farm that I started when I first came to Fresno, and I continuously farm to them.
Okay.
And I've gotten it to where I had the title company, I purchased the phone numbers and email addresses that were available for that farm area. I sent them the list and I got all the phone numbers and email. I think it cost me like 20 some odd dollars. It was like 6 cents per number or email. And now I took that list with the emails and phone numbers, and that's in my KV core for my
Where
farm.
did you order that from?
I use Chicago Title,
Oh,
and they have Active Farm CT. And you can go in there and create your farm in Active Farm. So you can do like your polygon or however the shape of your farm is. And you can put it in there, and then you can buy credits, and then what they do is they'll provide you with the emails and the phone numbers, and they format it for KV Core. They
nice.
format it for like if you're doing Core Fact postcards, they'll format it for Facebook if you're doing Facebook ads. There's like probably 40 or 50 different formats you can get that list to export. Check with your Chicago Title rep. They'll introduce you to it. I think it's by market. You may not have it down where you're in Southern California.
Mhm.
What area?
I'm in Chino Hills.
Oh, I was in Eastville.
Oh.
Chicago Title does that. They have Active Farm CT, and that's what I've used a lot to get phone numbers and emails. And then you do it on your own. You can do it whenever you want. You can do it as little or as much or wherever or small or whatever as you want.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, we try to stick with KV Core, just, it's free.
Well, and it's so robust. It can do so many things.
Exactly. And as far as dialers, if you wanted to use something like that in the past, I mean, Rick and I, we coach a lot of people. So, I mean, there are a lot of options if you wanted to use a dialer, and most of those places, I mean, there's RedX, there's Mojo, there's Vulcan. I mean, there's a ton of them out there, and they all basically sell the same sort of thing: expired, FSBO, circle prospecting, all of those different things. We use RedX with Rick's team. But they basically are all selling the same stuff. Depends on what everybody just has a different, like the dashboards.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, anything else, guys, before we start wrapping up? We've talked about a lot of great stuff today. I feel like it's good. I think just deciding, what the points look like, deciding like what that number looks like and starting from there. Tom, you came off of mute.
Yeah, I had a quick question. You said RedX, Vulcan, and Mojo for dialers, and you use RedX for your dialer of choice. Curious where you get your data for the actual expired leads or other leads. Is that just from your database, or do you actually go after have a lead source where you plug into your dialer?
No, so we were buying that data from RedX for circle prospecting, things like that. But right now we're not. We still have access to it. But that's exactly where we were getting it from, was directly from RedX. But then we also load our own data into RedX when we want to do dials, like we want to call a bunch of people all at once. Most of the rest of our lead sources is from our own database. I mean, Rick's been doing this for, a minute, 43 years.
So he's got a few people in his database that he can tap into.
Just a few. So sometimes we use a dialer specifically for that, right? We'll just, if we're making, like, we have a VA that's making calls, and then we have one of the agents on our team that will go through and call Rick's database as well, especially if we're having an event or something like that. So sometimes we just load our actual database up into the dialer to make those calls regularly. And most of the, like, guys, if you don't know this about dialers, you can pre-record your voicemail, right? So if they don't answer, it drops the voicemail, whatever that is. So like if we're calling our database and they don't answer, you don't actually need to leave the voicemail every time. It just drops it for you. So that's
Right.
super helpful whenever you're calling your own database and inviting them to an event. It just, if they answer, great. If they don't, that voicemail is being dropped automatically, which is great for calling thousands of people and letting that drop.
Selena, just curious. I know you guys have been using Redx for a while, and so is Rick. Was there any? I imagine there was a method to your madness. Just curious, what made you guys go with Redx as opposed to Mojo or Vulcan 7? Heard good things about all of them. Just curious what you liked about it.
We got a discount as workman services.
That works.
Yeah.
Would we get the same thing or no?
No, I mean, you'd have to be a workman client and or coach. So sorry, Slack is going crazy despite the fact that I'm putting on here that I want it do not disturb. I'm like, oh, no, I mean, realistically, I think there's almost always, guys, if you look at all of the different options, you can find a promo code out there for Mojo, Vulcan, Redx or whatnot. I mean, I usually tell my coaching clients, I usually tell them to go to Redx because they are offered a discount, but whenever they leave coaching or whatever, I'm like, go out there and Google all of the different companies and look for a promo code because they're almost always trying to be competitive with each other. So look at the different dialing systems out there and just say promo code, right? They're always trying to compete. So take a peek out there and see what's being offered. Most of them run roughly the same at the moment because of the competition. And they're all doing basically the same things, right? Most of the time I tell people to schedule a one-on-one with them because the dashboards are a little bit different and people tend to gravitate towards one versus the other. I have used Mojo and Redx both. I actually like the format of Redx more, but when I was in New York, our agents preferred the Mojo dashboard more. So sometimes it's just about what you like visually are more able to like utilize. It's just like some people gravitate towards more one way versus the other. So sometimes it's just all about the look and feel of it and what you work better with. Like I'm really good at almost all systems. Like I've used like every CRM out there because I've coached to all of them. So I can use all of them. So, but other people are like, oh, I hate KV Core. I don't find it intuitive. Whereas I'm like, KV Core is like the most intuitive one I feel like there is out there. But not everybody feels that way, right? So that's why I tell people, I'm like, schedule a one-on-one with the different companies and ask them for a demo and look at the one that you feel like you would be able to utilize the best. Because if you're not going to use it, you're not going to use it. Like that's, oh, we lost him. He's gone. He was like, I'm not using this either. Boom, boom. Probably just lost him. So that's why, I mean, people just gravitate towards something that they're going to like actually be able to like integrate with. Not everybody's great at every sort of setup. And people are like, oh, this looks difficult to use, so I will never utilize it. That's kind of the key. They're almost always competitive in price. Almost always. All right, 4 minutes remaining. Anything else? It was really good today. I'm sorry, I've been on call since 7 and my bladder is like, hi, how long until we go?
Just real quick, don't eliminate contacting your older leads or more seasoned leads. Just because, you know, timing a couple years ago may not have been the greatest. And then I know that people are calling on expireds from like 2019, 2018, and even 2020. Well, 2020, there probably wasn't that many, but the beginning of the year maybe, but calling on expireds from back then.
Definitely.
I've got some from 2017 that I'm updating there. Now I see that the thing I love about KV Core, I've got them in my KV Core, and these, when I'm updating my database, I'm sending out market reports. That's almost a given with every one of them, and lead revival campaign. And so I'm seeing some people come back around looking at properties the guy that wanted me to call him today, out of nowhere, he was looking at properties. And so that's what forced me to call him yesterday was I need to call this guy because he's looking again and I haven't seen his name for a year. So being very aware of that. And then HomeBot gives you some really, they give you a weekly list of who are the most commonly common users in your system. So you get the top 10 people that are looking in your system for either home value or home purchase.
Home purchase, yeah. Most likely, yeah.
Yeah.
Great call today, guys. Thanks for all
Thank
of
you for all your great information, everybody.
you. I like it when it's all interactive. So
You can count on me for that.
well, keep me posted on where you guys end up with your numbers for the week, like on what you decide that you're going to do for your numbers and like what that looks like. I mean, create yourself like a Google sheet so that you're starting to track like what your numbers actually are and what that conversion starts to look like for you. And obviously whenever you're with Workman, they have those, we have that tracker integrated, and it's easy, that calculates it for you. But I know I probably need to just create one that I can just share for everybody, like a Google sheet that kind of does all of that for you so that you don't have to create your own tracker. That's like a Google sheet that lets you put your numbers in. I'll put that on my to-do list. Where did my sticky note go? Me and my sticky notes, I'm turning into.
Selena, why don't you just do that? You're not busy enough.
I'm not. I was like sticky note hell over here. Google Sheet tracker.
Rick is rubbing off on you.
I know. If you saw what it was looking like over here, you'd be like, what is going on?
My mom got me hip to the app Sticky Notes.
I
And
know.
it goes on your computer and I'm just like, oh, that's what I need. Another place to go to write stuff down to try to find later.
I can't do that because I already have like the whole screen
Yeah.
issue here.
I'm
My husband
framed
comes
out
in,
right here.
yeah, he's like, you have a problem. I'm like,
Hot pink, turquoise. And I'm even color coding them. Okay, hot pink is for this, turquoise is for that.
he's like, you need to get this under control. And I was like, shh. All right, ladies, thank you for today. Very
Have a good
appreciate
weekend.
it. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.